want to talk impact and full circle moments. This week has been a full circle moment. It's been a full circle moment. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Ashley. On my channel, Ashley in Africa, I share my experience of motherhood, love, and entrepreneurship as I have relocated to the continent of Africa. This is my second country where I'm currently living in Johannesburg. I am the founder of Africa Investors Academy, a community for entrepreneurs, aspiring entrepreneurs and investors who want to build businesses, grow their business, expand their business to the continent of Africa, and invest in projects to build wealth and retire early. So if that sounds interesting to you, please be sure to subscribe, connect, follow, engage, all of the things. This video, we're going to be talking about full circle moments. So this week I was featured on Bloomberg article. I will link that below in the comments. The 50th anniversary or the 50th episode of the Blaxit Global podcast, a community of Black expats living, studying, and working abroad, featured me in their 50th episode. And I got an opportunity to speak at the US Africa City Summit for Wits University. Thank you for thinking of me for all of these platforms. Dr. Bob Wakele, the director of the African Center for the Study of the United States at Wits University, Dr. Asad El Malik, for thinking of me for this platform. And you know, it was just a full circle moment, and I'm so grateful. And I want to share some of the recaps of that talk, that podcast, as well as the Bloomberg article, which I hope to address individually, separately. But just a recap for the week, you know, it's been a bit of a bumpy transition here in Johannesburg for myself. I think my children are adjusting really well. Honestly, they're happy, they're joyful. I think I've been dealing with just like the weather difference, you know, getting settled, finding a place, going through those things, finding my own schedule, building my own community. And this week was a reminder, you know, that this journey is not linear. It is bumpy. It is a risk. It takes courage. It takes resilience. It takes endurance. And, you know, everything does not necessarily happen as you want it to happen. But when you're living this choice-based life and you are kind of living with an intention of creating impact, not only in the lives of myself and my children, but ultimately, you know, the mission that I have around my business is to impact 100 million Africans through economic empowerment and economic independence. And that's a windy road. That is a windy road. And so yesterday at the Africa US City Summit, I got to talk about the synergies between Africa and the US, specifically through the lens of African talent and the African diaspora, talent in Africa and in the US. I featured some of my favorite people, Idris Sandu, Jewel Burke, Adewale Youssef, just so many young innovators that are essentially taking the blueprint that was provided to us by our ancestors, right? Because, you know, in this month of Black History, which it's called in America, you know, this is a time where we are often encouraged to amplify our stories, remember our ancestors, and celebrate that. And it was interesting because I was talking to my girl's driver just about, you know, the fact that it's Black History Month in the US, and he was like, "What is that? Why do you celebrate that if you are meant to, you know, celebrate each other every day? And, you know, why does it have to be taken back to the people that, you know, made these courageous leaps? Why, where are the people that are still doing that now?" And it was, you know, it was a very dynamic conversation. It wasn't just one thread. And we talked about, you know, the need and sometimes the time that it takes to remember ancestors when you're just going. But he also had a point in the sense that, you know, sometimes, you know, history can be a great reminder, but it can also create kind of this stagnancy where you're vibrating in the energy of what was. And so neither is right or wrong. It was just an interesting perspective to hear from an African say, well, you know, if people are doing great things now, like, why aren't we celebrating the present, the moment, every day, right? Because that will continue to amplify and uplift. And I said, well, that's America, you know. So, but heading back into the conversation that was held at BITS, I was able to connect synergies between the talent, right? And the fact that we've always been the problem solvers, because we as a global population have been close to so many of the problems. And we've always been critical thinkers, inventors, scientists, biologists, chemists, architects, engineers, technologists. We were the first. And so innovation is simply the introduction of something new, or the reintroduction of something in its better form. And we, the children of our ancestors, are that greatest technology. We are our greatest invention. Our children now are our greatest technology and our greatest innovation. And, you know, basically my thread was keep investing in African people and African creators who are solving these problems, keep promoting African people that are solving these problems, and keep educating our talent and our youth to be globally competitive in this world where traditional education has become obsolete. So, you know, we see this changing in, you know, the East, with the way in which they're educating their children, you know, foreign languages at a very young age, technology at a very young age, robotics at a very young age, problem solving, critical thinking, project-based learning. These type of skill sets are necessary, like right now. Thus, we see artificial intelligence taking over in many parts of the West, where the talent is not skilled enough to take on these roles in this new global economy in which we operate. And so it was a complete honor to present next to Dr. Asad Malik, Dr. Green, and I am again so grateful to Wits University. I hope you will have me back to continue to, you know, encourage Africans to tell our stories, continue to amplify the stories of African creators and innovators, and continue to advocate for the foreign investment, the capital, social capital investment and equity for African people all over the world. Because that's how we're going to continue to move forward as a people, as a global population, as we continue to solve problems and be the change that we wish to see. So I hope that was helpful and insightful to give you kind of an idea of what our talk was about. You know, the interview for Bloomberg was essentially sharing my story as a form of resistance, right? So I, on my platform, a lot of times share information that I was once scared to share. And scared because, one, I didn't see people sharing that looked like me. Two, there was this idea that I needed permission from said, you know, experts to do that sharing. And three, I kind of cared what people thought. I kind of cared what people would say, well, who does she think she is, you know, getting up here sharing her story? Like, who cares? And I'll tell you that all of those things were wrong. All of those things were my own self-defeatist thinking, were my own insecurities. And the more that I continue to share my story, the more I am able to connect with people all over the world that are inspired and that share, you know, what they're doing on behalf of me being courageous enough to share my story. And I came up against a lot of resistance in my first, between the first year and 2 years of me living on the continent. And people asked me, like, what made you start sharing? And it honestly was because I was fighting for my life. I recognized that the environment in which I was in was not a safe environment for myself, and it wasn't a safe environment for my children. And somehow the people around me didn't see that. They didn't agree with me. And in fact, they wanted to do everything in their power to change my mind and force me into their way of thinking, and my children into their way of thinking. And part of me sharing my story with Ashley in Africa was to intentionally manifest in motion the fact that Africa is in fact my birthright. It is where I want to live. It is where I want to raise my family. It is where I want to grow my family. It is where I want to find peace and ease and this next chapter of success in my professional life. It is where I want to build community, and it is where I want to be able to create impact. And a year and a half later, it's not even been a year and a half since I've been sharing my platform, I was reminded of how powerful this act of resistance, this act of intention, and the manifestation in the moment. Because again, the first 4 months of me sharing my content, October, November, December, January, February, March. No, the first 6 months of me sharing my content, I was in America and I was fighting for my life, literally, to get back to the continent of Africa. And I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for the obedience, for the belief in myself, the courage, because not only did it play out, that manifestation in motion, but I've been able to connect and build community and inspire so many people from around the world, women and men, families, entrepreneurs, investors, mothers, fathers, migrants, to return to the continent. And I'm so grateful. And that Bloomberg article was a beautiful depiction of what it means to share your story, share it out loud, share it amongst people that see you and honor you and hold space for you. I'm grateful for the sisterhood of Krishan Wright with Blaxit Global, of Stephanie Perry and Rashida Dow with the Exodus Summit. And Lily, who is the writer of that article, which has generated in less than 48 hours, I think over 10 million impressions or something. I made that number up because it sounds good, but it's definitely well over 1 million impressions in 48 hours. But that is it is the decision of being bold, telling your story, because listen, everybody has a story to tell. And by not sharing your story, you are holding back a gift from someone else. Does that resonate? Do you hear what I'm saying? Let me know in the comments. What story do you have to share that is a gift to somebody else? Because I can guarantee you have a gift to give someone else. So don't be selfish in holding it back. One of the things that I love what Rashida said in her recap to that article was, we are not the gatekeepers of life abroad. In fact, it is our job to share our story so that other Black women, Black families, Black men, Black children can experience the abundance of life outside of America, can experience what it means to live in a place where your skin color is not up for conversation. It is not a deterrent in how you grow through life. We deserve that life. And so those of us that have done it, it is our obligation to share that with you, to give you the tools to support you, to create community around that, because it's a gift that we've been given. And so I love that she said we're not the gatekeepers. And so I was reminded again, what are you gatekeeping? What breakthrough did you come through in your life, in your business, in your family, in your marriage? I love watching relationships online and when people are sharing, their challenges, but because life is a road, okay? So what experiences have you come through? What breakthroughs, what sacrifices have you made to get to the other side? And how can you give that gift to someone else who desperately needs it? I see the desperation in so many people, so many mothers especially, because I completely connect with motherhood as a mother, of women that are desperately looking for an alternative and how they're going to raise their young Black boys in America. There's desperation in Black America and the mothers raising their children. And so, is it easy? No. Is it possible? Yes. Is it worth it? Absolutely. So that story, that article, again, beautiful depiction of sisterhood around this movement of other women who have had the courage to share their stories out loud and also support other women that are doing it too. So again, I'm just so grateful to those community of women. And I mentioned Krishan Wright, who is a writer, but also the founder of Blaxit Global. And I'll link that podcast below. I was super transparent and open on that podcast, Lord. But again, it's a gift that somebody needed to hear. And I already got so many great responses from that podcast and the article and the talk. And so this type of work reminds me that I have to keep going. I owe it to myself. I owe it to my legacy, and I owe it to the people that are in the work and that are in need of that additional push. So I hope that was helpful for you. And if you have an interest in moving abroad and building a business, bringing your family, I definitely recommend that you check out the Africa Investors Academy. I will link that below. It's a membership community. We talk about all things entrepreneurship, business, investment, but we also talk about mindset. We also talk about the heart set, our health, our mental wellness, to be able to make this journey and to be supported by like-minded people that are en route on this journey as well. I'd love to have you. And if you'd like to work with me one-on-one, you can definitely schedule some time as well at ashleyandafrica.com. All of those links are below. I look forward to seeing you in the academy. But until the next video, I'll see you then.